Hi, it's Artist Porter here with you again for another Talk About It Tuesday, and I have my friend Kyle Kurso from Legacy Mortgage here. How you doing, Kyle?
Woo, woo. I'm doing great. Great. Beautiful morning. Ready to talk about it Tuesday.
Yeah, heard you had a good weekend. I had a great weekend, so let's get to it. We
Let's
do
get after
have
it.
a good topic today. Something that's going to be shorter, so hopefully we can get you to watch the whole video. It's not going to be too long, but it's going to give you some great information. Um,
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about the cost associated with a transaction and buying a home. But what a lot of people don't know, there are various funds that you can use when you go to for your closing costs and down payment and all that. So that's what we're going to get into today. We can start by like the first initial funds that you need when starting a transaction. There are three that I like to talk to, and then I'll shoot over to you. So what you need to be prepared for is your earnest money deposit. Usually that's 1 to 3% of the offered price that you're going
Yep.
to purchase on the home. That's up between you and your realtor and how you're going to negotiate that. That makes your offer stronger. But an earnest money deposit just means you're putting money in the game and you're serious about buying the home. And you have to have that within the first 48 hours of an accepted offer put into the title company.
And that does go towards your down payment.
And that does go towards your down payment. That's not just frivolous funds thrown away. And then you also have your home inspection. That can be anywhere from $300 to $500 base. And then if you have to get the house surveyed, if you need to check the well, septic, do a radon test, whatever that you choose to inspect, those things add on to those costs there. And usually your realtor is going to negotiate getting that inspection done within the first week of an accepted offer so that you can know if you want to move forward with that home purchase.
And and usually I don't want to cut you off, but
Yeah.
we don't require an inspection. No lender does, but it's highly recommended. You want to make sure you know what you're buying. It's a large purchase, so you want to make sure everything's good to go.
That's right. And yeah, your realtor or your lender is not going to make you, but we're definitely going to suggest that you do that to save you during the transaction and make sure you're making a quality purchase. And then your appraisal. I'm gonna move that over to Kyle because usually that's around $500 depending on where
Yep,
you get the lending from. But
that's correct.
it goes from the lender. So we're gonna talk about the cost now with Kyle.
Yeah, so the 500 it's $500 deposit that we take in a credit card or debit card, and that goes towards your appraisal. So it's kind of, you just that's the only pretty much only portion of your closing cost that you're paying up front. It's just going right to that third party appraiser. Typical closing costs on a mortgage are probably around 3 to 6% of the purchase price, and it's broken down into a couple categories. You have, your loan origination charge, which on average can be 1% depending on what lender that you use. Then you're going to have your title company fees, so who you're closing with, and then the biggest portion of your closing costs are going to be your escrows for taxes, property taxes, and homeowners insurance. And usually you put about a year or so, worst case scenario, into your escrow account. And with that money that you're putting into your escrow account, that is going to be going towards the taxes that are due that first year. And then obviously you're paying monthly on your property taxes and homeowners insurance going back into the escrow account for the following year. So it all works, together and get towards that main number there. But typically, rule of thumb is about 3 to 6% closing costs.
Okay, yeah. So all that money can sound daunting, but we're here to really talk about the different funds you can use at the end of the transaction. If you don't necessarily have all of the money for the down payments and closing costs. So what are the most common sources of funds that buyers use for their down payment and closing costs?
Well, the most common sources, are just going to be regular checking and savings accounts, money that you have saved up in the bank. Those are pretty easy to source. Everything is in the bank. We have bank statements to see that. But there are a ton of different ways you can do it. Obviously, we'll get into it here in a little bit, but most common, definitely checking savings.
Okay. And can buyers use gift funds? If so, can the gift money be, or who can the gift money come from, and what documentation is needed? Sorry.
Yep. So gift funds are totally allowed. For most purchases, you can go up to 100% of the closing or funds needed to close with gift funds. Um, the only one that you cannot use gift funds for would be an investment property, but gift funds can be used in any other loan product, and again, it can be used up to 100% of the funds to close.
Okay.
Documentation wise, we supply you with a gift letter. So you and the donor would have to sign the gift letter there. Obviously, it's not required to be paid back. And the easiest way people when they have a gift funds just to less paperwork wise, I always tell my clients whoever's gifting you the money, just have them either wire it or send a cashier's or a certified check to the title company. That's going to save out on documentation. That money's already going to be there waiting for you at your closing table. So it's just the easiest way to save you on some documentation. Otherwise, we have to get the donor's bank statements for the last 2 months. We have to get the client's bank statements showing that the money has come into the account. So it's just a little bit of extra red tape, but nothing too serious.
Yeah. But that's a good note to take because I've had a transaction before where someone didn't send the funds that way. And so the gifter was a little irritated, like, why do they have to go through my accounts and things like that?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a good thing to know. And then who can the funds come from? Can they come from like a coworker, family member, a friend?
So yes, they can come. It's usually so obviously family is the most common. Um, or obviously interested party like someone like you're going to be living with in the house that you're buying, and then your employer can also gift you funds as well.
Okay. That's really cool because
Yeah,
a lot of people do work for smaller companies and maybe people are willing to help their employees out. That's awesome.
exactly.
Okay. Um, and then people can use money from their retirement accounts. So are there any limitations on using savings from 401k, Roth IRA, or traditional IRA?
No, not too much. I mean, obviously, with the 401k funds, the most common one I see and that people miss out on a lot is you can take if you're obviously with your same employer that you're working with, you have the 401k with, you're employed still with them. You can take out a loan against your 401k. Usually the interest rates are very good. And you'd have to speak with your 401k provider, but a lot of times the interest that you pay on that will go back into your total account there, as long as all the payments and everything are made on time. The only thing that I say is, I mean, if you can help it, you probably don't want to liquidate any of that money because there's going to have some tax implications. But when you're using it for buying a house, sometimes you can save a little bit on that.
Yeah. And this topic came up because I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was letting them know they can use funds from their 401k, and they had no idea. And I said, well, maybe this is a good idea to inform people.
Oh yeah.
Can someone use a personal loan or credit card for down payment or closing costs?
No personal loans or credit cards for the down payment or closing costs. So the saying always is you can't get a loan to get a loan. But kind of the way around that, like I've seen it in the past. If someone already owns a house, they've done like a home equity line of credit, and they can use that money to go towards the down payment and closing costs, as long as they still qualify with their debt to income ratio with that new payment from the home equity line of credit. But no credit cards, no personal loans for the down payment or closing costs.
Gotcha. What down payment assistance programs allow additional funds to be combined, like the MSHDA or grants or seller credits?
So the biggest one, like you said, just MSHDA. Obviously, you can get the $10,000 grant from the not grant, but it's technically a loan, but that has to be paid back. But you're able to get seller concessions on top of that. Depending on what kind of loan product, if you're doing a conventional MSHDA, you can do up to 3% of the purchase price. If you're doing, MSHDA FHA, you get up to 6% of those closing costs. So, like we talked about before, the only thing you have to bring in a MSHDA transaction is, the minimum you have to bring is 1%, and to go towards, obviously your down payment and closing costs there. But you can definitely combine a couple of those things to make your cash out of pocket a lot more manageable.
Okay, sounds good. Um, you did say the employer can help with gift funds.
Mm-hmm.
Can employer incentives like relocation stipends or bonuses be used toward a home purchase?
100%. 100%. So a lot of times companies will have some nice relocation packages where they're able to help you with, the move or help you with closing costs or down payments. That's totally acceptable. If you're getting like a yearly bonus, um, I've seen even people with their employers who are very, very good employers, they'll be able to, hey, I don't get my bonus until the end of the year. Sometimes they can speed that up process up and say, okay, we'll give you your bonus now and you'll be able to use that for your home purchase. But yes, definitely the employer with incentives like relocation, that's a big one I see a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Um, are there any specific funds that are not allowed to be used in the real estate transaction?
Um, just going back, obviously, no credit cards, you can't get loans to, get the loan there. But really I mean, there's not a whole lot that you can't use honestly towards your closing costs and down payment. So if you're ever questioning anything, obviously just get a hold of your lender and they'll be able to tell you right away like what's going to be acceptable or not.
Okay. What's the best way for a buyer to document their funds so there are no delays in underwriting?
Well, the biggest thing is I always say is, try to stay away from large deposits. Like, you have clients that are going to, they say it's easier to save money if I just keep cash at home and it's safe. But the problem is, with lending laws, you do have to document that stuff. So if there's any large deposits that are showing up in the bank account, it has to be sourced, and it's just tough to source cash. So I would just say, we collect, the last 2 months of bank statements for the approval. So just make sure that all the funds in there are going to be traceable, and nothing, no large cash deposits because that's when it gets a little bit tricky.
Right. And that includes those like large Zelle and Cash App
Yep.
deposits too. So remember that because I know some people who do like um auto repair or home repair, they have their own like side business. So they do accept forms of payments like that. So just something
Mm-hmm.
to be very, very mindful of.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you already spoke about it, but when should a buyer start organizing their finances and speaking with you about their available funds?
I mean, I would say, if you're looking to buy a house in the next 3 to 6 months, now is the time that you're going to want to be, organizing your finances and, seeing what type of, specific down payment assistance programs you might be looking into. Start seeing if, you can get a gift from a relative or your employer. And obviously just make sure that you have, 2 months of bank statements that are not going to have any large deposits on there to where we're not going to track that. But, those are just a few things that I would say, to get ready and make sure that, you're going to have a smooth transaction.
Right. So, like we say almost every video, reach out to us as early as possible and let's get a plan together. Because like you said, if you're not looking for another 6 months to a year, you can still be putting your best foot forward to put you in the best position when you are ready. And we are more than happy to help you with that. Anything else, Kyle?
I think that's it. I mean, just the one thing I forgot to add in too, like for those people that do find it easier to save in just cash, a lot of times you can open up like a high yield savings account and you can put that money in that account. And it's a little bit different than a bank account. Like you can't just swipe a card for that or, easily get the money out. You do have to request a withdrawal from that. So it will tend to kind of discourage people from taking that out. Like, just like the cash would be like, oh, the cash is there for that. And you're gaining interest on it. So you're going to be making a little bit of money too as it sits in there. So that's one thing I would say big time. If you're looking to buy the next 3 to 6 months, open one of those up, high yield savings account, and just start putting your funds in there.
And you see why I'm always inviting Kyle? Because he has all the good tips for you guys, okay? All right. So there are so many options to help you cover costs for your down payment and closing costs. You do not have to figure out alone. Me and Kyle are more than happy to help you get that plan together. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me or Kyle. We love to help, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you guys.
Bye.